Well, let's get into it, shall we?
Let's get into it, partner. That's like my Ace Ventura doing like
Tom Hanks in Toy Story.
Sure, yeah.
Woody
doing some Woodies.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Talking about Gyllenhaal doing some Woodies. We are discussing Velvet Buzzsaw, the latest bridge movie, our bridge between two people.
Even though, we kind of redesigned this podcast so that there aren't bridges as much anymore, but...
Yeah, that's true. But, it's still a bridge between theater and home viewing.
Yes.
Because it's a movie that could have been released in theaters 10 years ago.
I would agree. Now, Velvet Buzzsaw, this is the director of Nightcrawler teaming up with Rene Russo and Jake Gyllenhaal again.
Yep.
It has messages like Nightcrawler did, I would say.
Yep.
But it's not the same kind of movie as Nightcrawler.
It's still as
and that's Dan Gilroy, by the way.
It's still as incredibly clear about its point as Nightcrawler is.
Yep. What'd you think?
Okay, so this movie is entertaining. It's very easy to understand what it's saying. And I'm not entirely sure if I agree with what it's saying, but I was entertained. I liked it. Gyllenhaal's performance is fucking amazing. He's great.
You got to give it to Gyllenhaal.
And I actually liked all the writing. I liked John Malkovich was really good in this. I liked him quite a bit.
This is the most I've liked him in a long time.
Yeah. And I like the premise. You know, some people say like this is a horror movie at the end.
It is.
I don't believe it. I don't believe it's a horror movie. It's more of like a thriller.
No, it's a horror movie, and I can explain why.
Okay, that's fine. It doesn't feel like a horror movie to me.
It's not an effective horror movie. That's the problem with the movie. But continue. Sorry.
I was just going to say, I don't think that you're supposed to, I mean, maybe the idea is with other horror movies that you're supposed to just think that those characters are going, what's going to happen to them. You're waiting for what's going to happen. With this, I was like, oh yeah, I know exactly what's going to happen to you. And so you're right in that regard. It's not effective in that regard, if that's the point. And I'm not sure if it is.
Well, it's not the point, but it's got something to say, but it's in the slasher vein. This is a slasher movie.
Yes.
This is a slasher movie. You have a bunch of piece of shit characters that deserve to go. You have douchebags everywhere.
Yeah.
And the killer is going to take care of them throughout the movie.
Yeah.
Now, and I liked the movie overall.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I did enjoy myself watching this, but he fucked up a few things in my opinion.
Okay.
It's fun to watch shitty people get killed. That is a fun concept. It was fun in this movie for the most part, but you didn't have the Nancy from Nightmare on Elm Street character.
Right.
You didn't have the protagonist likable character in the middle of all this, unless you want to say the Stranger Things girl was that.
No.
But that's such a fucking off the beaten path character.
I actually disagree. Gyllenhaal starts as that character, but he has a bit of an arc. He becomes a better person.
But in his own self-interest.
Yes.
Like
but there's and maybe this is a detriment to the movie, but even though he was kind of a jerk character, his performance is so fucking great that you just kind of like him.
Oh, I liked him. I liked Rene Russo, like the characters themselves, but as far as like why this doesn't work for me is because I don't think that it really nails what it is. It's trying to be a slasher, and it's trying to be like this thought-provoking commentary on like the modern art world, or using the modern art world as like a general canvas to play with the concept of like artists themselves.
Art, what it means to have art, those who capitalize on art, those who critique art.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And there isn't the character. I mean, there ends up being, and we can't get into spoilers yet, but there isn't really like you would think Dan Gilroy would be, he's the one writing this. Like he knows, if he knows himself and thinks he's a good person, then you'd have that character.
Right.
You know what I mean? But that doesn't really exist in this. The horror elements of this, the actual like it kind of is fun. It's fun to watch people die in this movie because they're fucking assholes, but it's not like there's a scene early in the movie. The first death in the movie feels like it was completely ripped off from New Nightmare. It involves like a car scene.
Yeah. I still liked it. I thought I still liked I liked it, but it wasn't great.
I'm really it fucked with me because at first when I thought about it, I'm like, oh, it's pretty good, and then I was like, you know what? Like Jake Gyllenhaal really elevates this movie. He's great. Like it's actually good. This is one of the best things Netflix has done in a while. And then I'm like, yeah, but it's just not. Like, I think this is the case of me having expectations because I think Nightcrawler, we're going to see something fucking bizarre.
Right.
It wasn't as weird as I wanted it to be, you know? Like, it like some people will think this is weird, but it's very stock in a lot of ways. It's the same shit.
I didn't think it was particularly weird. I agree with you. It takes a while to get to that point where sort of like it's like one movie for a little while and then it becomes the horror movie later. And my problem is that I really was into the mystery of who said Painter is, and when they do you want to let's just give our grade so we can go
grade.
Yeah, so I'm going to give it a B.
I'll give it a C plus.
Okay.
I'll give it a C plus. It was entertaining.
Yeah. I think the problem is spoilers. What did not work for me is like you had this kind of interesting idea of like this guy who kills through his paintings after he's died. But the whole execution of that, and then the idea of like just giving away who he is in a scene where like a private investigator just found it all out.
Yeah.
That really undercut that bit. I still had fun after that scene, but the mystery was the thing that was really getting me because I was kind of liking the tension about who is this guy and why are his paintings alive and
it's kind of interesting you bring that up because I really didn't think about that. I think that because I'm sitting here comparing this to a slasher and even like let's throw The Predator in as a slasher movie. But yeah, you've got like Jason, Freddy, Michael Myers, Predator, fun, interesting, cool looking characters.
Yep.
Like, and this, like, you learn a little bit in that scene backstory. There's some exposition there, but there's no like force to root for because you end up kind of rooting for those characters in a way. You know what I'm saying? So you're left without the protagonist who's the example of like good.
Yeah.
And you're left without like a clear antagonist who is like a physical form. So I think it's kind of just tough. It's tough when like a thing is killing people and they're not clear on like, is he only in his work? He can go into other people's work. So it's like the rules are a little questionable.
The rules are a little questionable. And that's sort of where I'm like, that's part of why the rules can create tension because you understand, they've walked into this.
Right.
Therefore, now they are at risk.
Yes.
Here, there's a death that happens and it involves another person's piece.
Correct.
And you're like, which you say piece. It's like,
brilliant.
I love what this says about the art world because I love the bit.
It's perfect. Yeah.
John Malkovich working in a studio and then the guy's like, this is really thought provoking. It's a bunch of bags of trash. And Malkovich is just like, that's not art.
Yeah.
And it's like,
but it's someone's art.
It's so fucking good because it's like the intent. I mean, the idea is like this movie actually has things to say about art and the creation of art and the perception of art and all of those things. I really liked what it had to say, but at the end of the day, I was like,
and criticism it has
and
a lot to say
criticism
about,
and that's sort of why I was like, I looked at the critics and I think it's at like 58%.
Oh, you think they were butthurt a little bit?
I think they were a little butthurt because essentially this is kind of like it was kind of like saying like you have no business being a critic of art.
Right. I get it. I mean, is that the part you were saying you kind of disagree with?
I sort of disagree with sort of the premise. I like what he's saying, but I don't think it's all works 100% of the time because, we have standards for art. We have art studies and there is a part of me that says, well, if you can't handle the criticism, then what are you doing working in a medium where you're sharing something so personal as your art or your story or your movie or your music?
It's almost like Dan Gilroy's a little butthurt.
Yeah.
And actually, fun little tidbit, he was a little butthurt because his Superman script was apparently... What inspired this idea was that he was a co-writer on the infamous Nicolas Cage Superman movie that was going to be made in the 90s and got canceled because they didn't think it would make enough money.
Yeah.
So this is kind of his, well, we don't do this all for the money. You know?
Yep. And I
like
that.
Well, right. I was going to say, so to me, this movie's it's really got me in a pickle because I really like the message. I think it's a little too on the nose,
it's
maybe.
Pretty, but Nightcrawler was pretty on the nose, too.
I agree. But yeah, you're right. But Nightcrawler worked better for me, I guess.
Nightcrawler was another really good movie that was tied by Gyllenhaal's amazing performance.
So good. But yeah, no, I like all that stuff. I like the banter and just how big of pieces of shit these people all are.
Yep.
Like backstabbing assholes, all that stuff I like. The only thing that gets me is I feel like you could have worked the horror element into this better. I wasn't on the edge of my seat. There was no tension for me in this. None whatsoever.
And there's a part of me that says, it's kind of like art. Is that his intent? Does it matter if that was his intent?
I suppose. It feels like it was. I don't know.
I mean, that's the thing that gets me about this movie is I'm like, we're thinking about it in sort of like genre, lenses. And it's like, is it a movie that is trying to play with genre conventions, or is it just trying to be a weird fucking thing that's its own thing?
But it's not weird enough to be that.
You're right.
Yeah.
It's not. It's a little, you're right in saying that it was a little stock. It was a little stock. The thing that I liked, Gyllenhaal. I actually think Gyllenhaal is the closest thing that you actually have to a good person, because there's the main character that starts out and she has that, I talked about it in our episode this week, the negative character arc. She starts as a somewhat decent person. She ends up being a piece of shit by the end.
Correct.
She's the one that, in my opinion, I wanted to see die the most.
She was terrible.
Yeah, she became an awful, awful human being. Whereas Gyllenhaal, there's that bit where, Toni Collette, your girl Toni Collette's in this
good in this. She was fun.
She's great, yeah.
She's another fabulous.
Yeah, oh yeah. And there's this bit where she's kind of asking him to almost like fake a review.
Early release bullshit. Right.
Yeah. And
he gets
uptight because he's like, I don't lie. I say what I feel. And I was like, you're an honest person in what looks like a dishonest field.
Well, she was asking him, if I remember correctly, to kind of give her the heads up on what he was going to say about certain things.
That's
so
right.
that she could put them in the gallery, right?
That's right. That's
and he's
what
like,
it is.
What?
Yeah.
And the way he played like the like gay, it was just, he was fucking awesome.
Yeah. I actually thought the cinematography on this was kind of good. There were some decent shots in this. Interesting ways of shooting certain things. I can't remember. I just
felt
remember
like a Netflix movie to me, as far as how it looked. Yeah.
There were certain scenes that I was really unimpressed with. Like there was a bit where he and the girl are coming back from a show and it's a 2-shot in a car or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of like, well, that's really flat and boring. But and I don't think it's as well shot as Nightcrawler was.
No,
but it's still pretty good.
Nightcrawler was like all over the place with, I'm assuming, a bigger budget though too, and he was like going through the streets of L.A. like it was just. I feel like it's an easier setting to kind of put people in. The other thing is, I don't go to art museums.
Right.
I don't know what this world is actually like.
Right.
So I'm, kind of left out there. Whereas I've been in cities and I have read tabloids and I fucking, you know what I mean? Like I know a little bit more about that. I understand like paparazzi fucks are awful.
Yeah.
And whatever. So that's easier for me to relate to than this.
Right.
But we are artists. We make a podcast. The
art of conversation.
We're in spoilers now, correct?
Yeah.
If I remember correctly.
Yep.
Yeah, so we are John Malkovich on the beach. Just creating that was great.
I loved that. And I loved the idea of like he's just got this massive creative block that's going on. And as somebody who creates, it just gets worse and worse and worse when you're going through that, because there is no light at the end of the tunnel. You can't see it.
Well, and he's doing it for the wrong reasons.
Yes,
Yeah.
loved that. And there was
But why
that
doesn't
message.
he get fucking killed?
He doesn't get killed because he didn't.
It's true redemption. It's not selfish. He's not aware of it.
But he never profited off of the old man's work. He saw it, but he didn't profit.
Good point. Yeah, you're right.
That was the idea, is that you shouldn't be profiting off somebody else's work, I guess, or real art, or don't go against the artist's intention. I mean, there's a lot of kind of hoity-toity, up your own ass, I'm an artist, you have no right to criticize me sort of shit. And I'm like, well, but everybody has their own thoughts, and everybody is entitled to think what they think about your work. That's just how it is. And you can be upset about it all you want. They might not understand it, but they're
if you don't understand this one,
yeah.
I mean, this is about as surface level as within the first 5 minutes.
Oh, yeah,
you know
got
what
it.
this is.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep. You got it immediately.
You're being introduced to characters, and they're making quips about like, that work's gotten way worse.
Yeah.
It was always better when he was drinking.
Yep.
You know, and you're like, okay, I get it. They're all selfish pieces of shit.
Yep.
And it's not about art for them, really. It's not about art. They're just fucking in it for themselves and for profit. And for prestige. They want people to look up to them.
There was a scene that, the two women start giving Gyllenhaal a bad time because his girlfriend at the time told him to give a negative review to her ex, who was an artist.
Yes.
And they're all like, "Do you hear he got into an accident? Oh, your review devastated him." And it's like, dude, I get it. Like, I get what you're saying. Like, artists take it rough when somebody doesn't like their piece, but it's like, if you can't handle the criticism, you just don't go into the field.
Well, I see he was saying that a little bit, but I think that was more about like, you're literally damaging the livelihood of people that make stuff. And this was something that apparently he actually liked. He was being dishonest in his negative review.
And you could see and that's where I'm like, I'm not sure if it's a disingenuous change, because he felt horrible about it. And he said that to the girl. And so that was one of my things where I was like, I kind of wish that Gyllenhaal lived, because he actually had a real change of heart.
But it was a change of heart based on the fact that everybody was dying. If this didn't happen, he continues on.
But
you know what I mean?
The reviewing bit was not based on people dying.
True.
It was just based on he just felt terrible about it. But that was not ultimately, that character arc has nothing to do with him being killed. Or, with him being hunted by the artist.
The homo bot. I was going to say, no, the hobo bot.
Yeah,
the hobo bot.
I will say I liked the little bit where she goes into the guy's house and she sees all these paintings. And I thought that scene was sufficiently creepy, even though it did the stereotypical, like, oh, the eyes moved thing.
Oh, yeah.
But his apartment was creepy enough, like, in its design.
His apartment was cool.
Yeah.
I wish there would have been more of, like, you're right, like the exposition stuff of like just like pieces of his art all over the apartment and digging through his old shit to find out who this guy was or whatever. You're right. It's kind of handled. It's almost like they were like, okay, well, we need that scene. How can we make that scene?
Yeah.
How do we quickly explain who this guy was?
Yes.
He's the Jason Voorhees of the story. He's the wronged person who went fucking mad because he was fucked with, and he,
Could you imagine if they had saved some of the revelations about his character? Like, one character is still, like, maybe Renee Russo is the one who finds out, and she's reading the stuff.
Okay.
And it's being intercut. She's reading about him, and the big revelation of, like, this is why he kills is happening right when Gyllenhaal is getting killed. I feel like that would work a lot better. Yeah, it would be
more effective than PI shows up at dude's, the janitor.
Yeah.
It was, it was odd.
Renee Russo's bit. I love the whole,
I liked her a lot. I like her, period. I always have. Yep. I think she's good.
But I liked the bit, like, I liked and see, this is a movie that I sort of appreciate for sort of like the writing that it's doing, even though it's really over the top. Is like, she had to, you profited off of art, you lied about it, you're disingenuous. you don't deserve art. So you have no art in your life. You don't deserve it.
Right.
And then she gets killed anyways because she still has it on her body, which, complicates it's, the art is literally killing you, whatever.
God.
But I mean, I liked that. I liked that idea.
And the idea, like the scene where she dies when like life is imitating art,
yes,
because it's actually the painting she had basically playing out
in front of her. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that was good. That was pretty good. There was
she had an art too. Like she could have not gotten it too, theoretically.
Yeah.
I mean, but
yeah, I kept on waiting for her to die.
Well, and the other thing too, like, okay, this is just a random nitpick, I guess, but like I was getting a little annoyed with like her receiving the phone call, like, oh, what happened?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I get what you're doing, because like you're making her realize she's in denial as all this shit's going down.
Yes.
But it's almost like, I don't know, it's just too noticeable. It wasn't like creatively done.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I did kind of like, there's a thing that I liked about it, which is the artists, the way John Malkovich and then the other guy reacted to the art was different than how like other people reacted in like a, whoa,
you're right. That's a good point.
But they reacted in a way like, I need to get back to what's me.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's kind of true, because like good, real, true, honest art can make you introspective. And it doesn't have to be like a painting if paintings don't do it for you. Music, movies, whatever.
The movie, I'm sure that the real modern art world, there are aspects of this in it. Like but it's using that not only as a commentary on modern art and the art industry, but in general creative art. Period.
Yes,
I think.
Yes,
because this might be a really good example of it, because maybe that world is like that,
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, critiquing it all comes into play. I mean, making movies are art. He's self-deprecating towards his own industry in this, I would say. Apparently, I would come to the conclusion that he thinks he's above it.
I think so. I think that's the idea. It's once I knew that it was a response to his Superman script being rejected, I realized this was basically a revenge hit piece in movie form. Because
he's the artist.
He's the artist, he's killing literally everybody else in the industry other than artists, which is why it's so blatantly obvious what he's saying. So, I mean, I was like, I'm fine with this. I don't agree with it. You seem awfully bitter.
It would have been good if he like had an artist who was a fucker too.
It would have.
It
would have. I mean, I guess
you're right. Like what? They are artists. Like they probably dabble, but they're more about like they're the background of the industry. They're they're behind the curtain. Yeah, so to speak.
They're given less focus. Actually, ironically enough, it's not about them, and I think that's kind of the point. It's like, it's not about the artist. It's not about the art.
Well, even like the dickhead guy who does like the graffiti art.
Yes.
He doesn't get it. He doesn't get killed.
He doesn't get killed because he goes back to, I'm going to.
And he never profits off of her. Yeah.
Yeah. He never profits off the art. He's inspired by it. And he goes back to, I'm going to do my expose or whatever. I'm going to do my work back where I started.
I'm going around in circles though, because we go back to the rules this sets up, because he does see the painting move.
Yes.
And I was under the impression that the people who the thing is trying to scare the shit out of and are after are the people who see the shit.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, that's odd, but I don't know.
I mean, maybe it's just the idea that art speaks to everybody, but if you capitalize off my shit, you die.
Sure.
You're still going to... I don't know. It's very clear in certain aspects, and it's a little unclear in others.
Well,
I think
because I don't think it's consistent. I don't think that I don't think it all works the way it was intended to work.
Either that, or he's got very, very specific things that he's saying, and we just can't pick up on them because it's not clear enough.
I mean, to me, it was obvious what he was saying in the first 5 minutes of the movie.
The big picture is very clear. Maybe he's got like nuances to it though.
It's funny though, because like I was let down overall by this, even though I thought it was pretty good. but I want more movies like this,
Yeah,
please. By
please.
all means,
Yeah.
make more movies like this that are different and a little off the beaten path. When I saw the trailer, I thought it was going to be like this batshit crazy fucking time.
I think that's the problem. Is a lot of people saw the trailer and they got really pumped, and then I just don't think it lived up to the hype.
No, I don't either.
But I think it might be, other than How to Train Your Dragon 3,
Your favorite.
might be my favorite
All
of the
right.
year.
I would put it behind Serenity for me.
Oh, that's right. You did see
I
Serenity.
saw Serenity.
Yeah, that's right. Yep.
And what's it called was last year, but I saw it this weekend, Destroyer. But
Right. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
yeah, it was overall. It's you should stream it. Make
Yeah.
up your own mind.
Yep. I agree. But thanks for listening, guys. Have a great day, weekend, whatever you're experiencing right now.
There you go.